All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the call. We do have a few pieces to take care of. There are 7 agenda items to go through today. The first order of the business is to approve the meeting minutes of the previous meeting, which if you follow the link that Daniel has provided, you will see that under the item number 1, you have a link there. If you click on the link, you will come to this page, which is the meeting notes for the previous minutes. If colleagues have a chance to peruse those meeting notes,
Can I
sure.
can I suggest that we postpone it? I only sent out the notification today, so
Okay,
I think
right.
we have to postpone.
All right, that's fine then. Given that the notice has only gone out today, I will give members a bit of time to peruse, and we'll defer these agenda items, and we'll come back to the review and approval at the next meeting. So I will table that for as an action item for next meeting. Thank you. All right, second one. Agenda item, we have updates. First order of business is on AU base R6 ballot schedule update. Daniel, can you take on this one?
I can.
Thank you.
So what I think is important for us to cover as we come into this, we do have the ballot period opening in the beginning of August. And after kind of planning and consultation with the IG publishing facilitator from HL7 AU, what that means is a target publication date on the 1st of August, which obviously needs to include all our changes, but also any of the QA and everything else for that. And that gives us around 4 work group meetings remaining. Noting the last work group meeting will need to actually be a governance one, where this group will need to look at from the release baseline, go through the QA.html and make sure that we are satisfied that we're ready to go to ballot and kind of approve that to be published. So that's really 3 work group meetings in addition to this one, where we can get through the changes. For those of you who are working on changes and ones that haven't yet started discussion, I think I'm probably just going to point to our historical track record, where it takes more than 1 meeting, really, once we've got an extension or a structure to approve it. So I think it's really important that either we try to fit them in next meeting, or it really has to be the one after that for any chance for it to come into ballot. Because we have to include it, and then we have to make a determination that it's AFMM1 for it to be in scope of ballot. And I think that's really all I wanted to highlight.
So the quantum of work required, does it sort of fit into the tight schedule that we have?
That's dependent on the communities. So it does, as in we have incorporated a lot of the changes, and there's still some QA that'll be done that'll get those ready. It's more around whether some of the topics of interest that were raised by different people in the community, things that we've been talking about around it would be good to define as PCU, are waiting on those proposals to come in. But it's a hard deadline. So either we see those proposals in enough time to discuss and consider and incorporate any improvements to put out to ballot, or they will have to be pushed to the next release.
Okay, so we do have a tight schedule to work on, and we do have a fallback situation just in case if we can't work on it, then we have a pathway sort of deferring. So good. Any other questions from the audience? All right. If not, then the next one, which is the actions related to AU-based R6.
So that first one on me, that's still in a holding pattern. I'll wait for Andy to let me know when he's ready to schedule that.
Okay. And then the second one, we don't have Ruben here today at the meeting, so we'll also sort of hold it over to the meeting when we have Ruben here. And the next one will be on Brett. Again, we'll hold it over until Brett is able to join us. The next one is Marika.
So this one, there's an item actually lower down on the agenda, and I popped a message in the chat. I haven't had the capacity to work on it since last FHIR working group, so we'll need to defer this to the 18th, which was, I think, the original plan. So that relates to item number 4.
Okay, thank you. I myself was actually also looking at the medication strength, including the active ingredient strength myself as well. It's just as a matter of personal interest, but I got again distracted. So happy for that to be deferred, and we'll come back to revisit this item again. Richard, you're up for next
I'm
one.
also a defer. My other work commitments have got in the way of doing anything about that. I know it's getting desperate. I'm going to have to bounce some of my other work commitments and get onto it.
All right, thank you. Michael Osborne.
Yep. So my review is done with the subgroup we were working with, and that's item number 3 on the agenda.
All right, so we'll come back to that in that case then. Thank you. Danielle, the final one.
So that's done. That update was provided to the AU Core TDG last Thursday, so that's ticked off.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 3, back to you, Michael.
Sure. I'm going to attempt to share my screen.
Okay, sure. I'll stop sharing. And you can take on.
Okay. I'm just going to jump over here. So we met again last week, I think it was, and we had a few more. So this is the patient identifier profile. So there was a couple of points we had to add a guidance on what applications actually means for patient internal identifier. And the other thing was how we differentiate that from a medical record number. So we've included a lot of that in the guidance. The additional change, I think, was to the FMM level, which you'll notice is now 0. So there's a branch of AU base, but it doesn't have my most recent changes in it. So there's a branch here which I can share. How do I do that? Just in the chat, if you want to take a look. So I guess.
And were there any changes to the structure?
No. I think I can't remember whether this was the last meeting or the meeting before, but I got asked to make this system one mandatory. So that's been done as well.
Is a standard status of trial use too adventurous for a maturity level of 0?
No, it's fine for the moment.
Good.
Yeah. So Richard, I don't think you're at the last meeting that we had, but Heath, Angus, myself, there might have been someone else there. I can't remember. But anyway, we all sort of got our heads together around the wording for the usage notes and for the profile description. So and also Danielle's reviewed, and we've applied some of Danielle's feedback as well. So, so I was asked to put this line into the description. So if you look in the JSON, it's got that comes from this description here.
I think you've addressed enough of the feedback that this can go in at draft 0 and now can be looked at by the community, and then we can make a determination later on AFM1. Because, I mean, running through it mentally, which I think there were a number of actions to say, include this description, include that description, provide guidance on that. And looking at what those actions are, I think you've addressed all the outstanding requests, which were all around providing informative information and making statements around why this is different to MRNs. I can see that. Is there anything anyone's noticing that is missing that we thought was going to be changed in between last meeting and this one?
Just for the matter of clarity and formality, so it would be nice to have a list of those items, and then
do you want to go to the last meeting minutes, which include them?
Sure. If we have them, and then we can look at that, and then we can sort of determining which one has been ticked off, and then we can record it in today's minute as an official record. So therefore, we know that those things are being addressed.
I think the meeting minutes are quite light there, and we should do some more work on them. But that's the list of. Oh, hang on. Is that the agenda? No, that's the agenda. Please scroll down.
Sorry.
The minutes were pretty robust.
Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah, the key points for me were the distinction from medical record number, which has definitely been addressed, and the other one was the definition of application, which has been addressed as well. That were the two major discussion points I remember in the conversation.
Okay. So if we can document that and then put a link to the page that Michael has just shown us, and for people to cross-reference in today's meeting minutes, that would be great.
Yep. I guess that's my job.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
With that proviso, I'm happy to motion that we accept the AU Patient Identifier, Internal Identifier profile as per the branch, this branch, which will merge into the other branch, and that'll get merged into master.
Hang on, hang on. Just to clarify, we're not saying just straight merge, because there's a level of QA review from the editors of AU Base that hasn't bothered to be done, because it's more around the normative and informative material than, full convention checks. So yeah, if we can just clarify in the motion that we accept the proposal for inclusion of the AU Patient Internal Identifier profile, which I guess you can say yes, as with the guidance and the profile structure as presented.
Yep.
So I think we are looking at the two parts motion here. One part motion is to accept the changes that has been made as per what's being discussed with what Michael shows us, and that the motions that these changes satisfy the change request that has been put to us. So that's one motion. And then the second motion will be looking at if we're looking at merging this or
well, look, the JIRA is to add a patient internal identifier profile, and we've just been rolling through actions of how to get a good enough draft that we're happy to go, yes, we can add this profile. So I think we've gone, there's a number of actions. Everyone who raised them has gone, I think my action is satisfied. I'm now happy to vote on this change request.
As to be adding this into the profile.
Yeah, as to add this profile to AU Base.
Okay, yep. All right, I'm happy to for Michael to reiterate the motion, and then we can then get a seconder. Michael?
Reiterate the motion so that we accept that the AU Patient Internal Identifier profile be accepted into AU base. Do I need to add anything more?
I think for this one, that's fine. Is there a second motion potentially for adding it to the identifiers for patient?
That's a good point. Let's make a friendly amendment that we accept this profile and add it to the list of recognized identifiers
For
in
those two?
AU-based
AU-based
patient.
patient and related patient person, or just patient?
I would say it's just patient, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Point of order, are we rolling the two into one, or as I said earlier, should that be two separate motions?
I think it can be one, but we can do separate if anyone has a concern on including it.
So
in
Michael
the patient
Wilson,
profile.
you sort of raised that second point. So are you happy for the two to be rolling into one motion, or
yes,
you want that to be?
That's the intent of the usage for the internal identifier. So yes, I'm happy for it to be rolled into one.
Okay, cool. So for the clarity of scribing, Ducey, have you got the motion or clearly documented, or do you need Michael Osborne to restate the motion so therefore you can capture it clearly?
I can repeat it and then see if everyone agrees with that. So
Okay,
the motion is
sounds
to
good.
accept the AU Patient Internal Identifier profile to be added to AU base with a friendly amendment to add it to the list of recognized profiles for AU based patient.
Yes,
Michaels,
I'm happy
are
with
you
that.
satisfied with
All
that?
right.
Yes, I'm happy.
Okay, cool. All right. Now that we have a motion with friendly amendment on the table, anyone who wants to second that?
I'll second that, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. All right. Any further questions or discussions? All right. If not, then let's call to the vote. Daniel, do you want to launch a formal electronic vote, or are you happy to accept verbal?
No, I can go do that.
Okay,
Reminder
let's do
that from
formal.
CSIRO, only Michael Osborne and Michael Wilson will be voting.
Yep. So how many do we have here today totally? Me as a chair, I can't vote. So we have 10 people.
I think all your votes are in.
Okay, sounds good.
From all the people who can vote.
All right. Okay.
I'm going to end the poll.
That's good. So
There are 5 affirmative, 0 negative, and 1 abstain are the results.
And that's good. And motion carried. All right, thank you.
Stephen, you might need to reshare your screen now.
Yep, I will do that. Okay, that takes care of item number 3. Item number 4, I will defer that to the next meeting. Item number, unless there are any further discussions or questions on that. Okay, hearing none, then let's move on to item number 5. Looking at the JIRA ticket FHIR 46319. You want me to show that?
That's going to be me
Yeah.
on behalf of Brett, since he's at Turf Days. So I can probably share my screen.
Okay,
I
have it on the screen, but happy for you to share. I'll stop sharing.
All right. So we've talked about this in a previous meeting. Not much, but we did go through the JIRA and come to a general position, though we didn't vote on it, on what we wanted to do. which was that Brett would do a branch explaining what the intended action is, and that we would consider that and vote on it. Oops, I forgot to click on the Jira. So the Jira is that we were advised by FHIR and its quality checks that we should be using the international time zone extension, not the Australian one. And the proposal from Brett was that we should do a profile of the international time zone extension and set the Australian terminology in there and describe that these are the time zones for Australian use, and deprecate the existing AU extension. And there was a brief discussion when we last talked about it on should we delete the time zone extension, but because that time zone extension is already at AFMM 1 or possibly 2, I think, the first step is actually to deprecate in a release, so that those people who've already implemented it can still use it. And then in later subsequent releases, consider whether or not we can actually remove it from the standard when we go to ballot in future releases. And so Brett has done up the branch to show what that would look like. And so I've got that here. That's the profile and extension, but that's the right branch. So that's the new extension. That's the new, sorry. Where are we? Time zone here. Aha. So So this is the old Australian time zone extension. You can now see that it's got standard status deprecated. It was at FMM1. Same introduction up here. And what we've been doing is having the note saying why it's deprecated, and to also point to where the profile of the international extension is. If I click on that, this is the latest, which is the profile that defines usage of time zones with that international time zone extension, which is a pretty light profile. It is actually that looks wrong to me, and I need to check that. Oh no. Yeah, no, that's fine. So there's the binding. This is the same terminology we've had, which lists the Australian time zones according to the IANA definition. And then there's some examples which show that we actually have to go to the JSON to see it. That you can see here that that's the international URL. This looks wrong because it doesn't actually have a time zone in it, like it doesn't have a value. What's happened? What is in this? So the example would actually would need to include the time zone code in it. Is there a correct one down here? No, that's weird. Petitioner role example 2 JSON. Let's find that.
Maybe the original example was broken, and so the new example has just been adjusted without correcting the error.
Yeah, it might have. So that's prac role example 2. Prac role example 2. Let's have a look at what that's in there. Oh, it's in the input example, but it's not coming through an IG publisher. Fascinating. Hang on, that was practitioner role example 2. Aha. Aha. Oh, I see what has happened. Okay. Yeah, all right. The profile is wrong, but we would correct the profile. So it's the overall theoretical change, not the exact thing we want to approve because the profile is defined incorrectly. Which I thought it looked a bit strange. But that's the overall idea of it. Obviously, we'd have to correct that and get that to 0 QA errors because it also has to be at AFMM1, which is an assessment that it is technically authored correctly for us to include.
So the basic idea is that the Australian time zone extension would be a profile of the international time zone extension, and its only change would be to say, use a time zone relevant for Australian geography.
Well, sort of. I think that really the overall JIRA issue is that we have a local time zone extension. But there's an international one. Both of them do exactly the same thing. They allow you to say what time zone you're in. And so the proposal and the advice from FHIR is we should be using the international one. We should have just profiled it to say, here's the Australian time zone codes so that people know how to use the international time zone extension to set Australian time zones, instead of making people understand an entire new extension when they're in Australia to no time zones. Which I agree that there's no meaningful justification, I think, for us to have a special way to have time zone information if there's an international extension.
Did we do that because there was trouble profiling in the way extensions, or?
Yes, we did that because this was pre the tooling and everything else, understanding how you could profile extensions. So it looked to be the only path forward. About, when did we do it? 4 or 5 years ago?
Right. So now the tooling has caught up with what we wanted to do, and we can stop having our local one so that we can get what we want.
Yes.
Okay, so moving forward.
So I would like to motion, I mean, obviously the caveat is that it's correctly authored, like the QA shows no errors. Apologies, I didn't check that before presenting this morning and fix it. The proposal is that we deprecate the Australian time zone and that we profile the international time zone for Australian usage, binding it to the Australian time zones as defined by the original Australian extension, which was this one. So we've already agreed and approved this value set and said these are the time zones for Australia.
Okay, so that's the motion. Lucy, are we good in capturing the motion?
Yes.
All right.
Got
Great.
it. Thank you.
All right. So anyone wants to raise any friendly amendments? If not, then can we get a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you,
Get
Lucy.
maybe a non-CSIRO person, just
Okay.
I'll second it, Richard.
All right. Thank you, Richard. All right. We have a motion on the table with movers and also seconders. Any further conversations, discussions, questions? All right. Hearing none, let's call to the vote. Danielle, please.
Okay, that should be coming up for people. Okay, everybody, I think, has voted. How many people are online?
I think we have 10 last count, 11 now. All right. So we have 11 count, sort of like, I think the numbers are right.
So it's 6 affirmative, 0 negative, 1 abstain.
Yep, and motion carried. All right, thank you for those who participated in the voting. All right, let me share my screen again. All right, that take care of action agenda action number 5. Number 6, do we have Matt Cordell joining us that I have missed?
Yep, no, I'm here.
Okay,
Steve.
Matt, thank you. You came in right at the correct time or right time. So action number 6 is for you to peruse. Take it away. Do you need to share screen?
Yeah, I'll share screen. I've got some stuff
Okay,
here.
I'll
just to talk
stop
through it.
then. Go ahead and share.
Yeah, so that should be sharing now.
Yep.
So yeah, this was just about tightening the value set binding for the manifestation. So I've got some tickets here. So this was this profile, and currently manifestation, it's got a binding to clinical finding, which is all the clinical findings that are in SNOMED CT. And my recommendation in the feedback was that we can tighten that. There's an existing clinical manifestation reference set that's built exactly for this purpose. It was built, I had a look before, about 10 years ago, so it's been around for a little while. And I think the main benefit is that it takes away a lot of the noise. So the size of these two, the current binding to clinical manifestation is about 120,000 concepts. And it's got a whole lot of, it's anything that's a finding or disease in SNOMED. Some of them, or probably the majority of them, are irrelevant as manifestations to any sort of adverse reaction. They're like just all sorts of things. The one that jumps at me is pregnancy. I don't know. Maybe that is a manifestation for some sort of encounter, but all sorts of things. The value set I'm proposing is this one that's bound to the clinical manifestation ref set. It's only got 743 codes at the moment. And from memory, that was developed based off information provided by the TGA years ago of what had been reported in historical data. So it's pretty comprehensive. I think there's 700 there. We can add more codes to if people do find there's anything missing, but it is genuinely conditions that can be manifestations or have been reported to be manifestations of substances. So there's a whole range, and it's a lot, I think it's a lot less noise in this value set. 700 codes compared to 120,000. So yeah, I think that's all I'm motioning for today. Is
I have 2 hands up. I can't remember which, I can't see which one is which, so I'll just go sort of by alphabetic. Daniel and then David.
Matt, is this reference set maintained? So is there any like schedule of this being like examined or new codes coming in?
New codes can come in if someone asks for them. The only other maintenance is it's just kept up to date with each release of SNOMED. So if any of those codes are retired, suitable replacements come in. Usually that's if those retirements are typically if, I don't know, this example, let's say they decided that ataxia was going to be ambiguous and it's replaced by 2 other codes, we'd remove that and add the 2 replacements in. So it would still have, it always at least is the same coverage. But I guess in terms of adding codes, that's probably driven by user feedback.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Daniel has asked exactly the question that I want to ask. So thank you for that clarification. David?
Matt, just saying, you say the objective is to tightening the value set. Is it also changing the binding and changing it from, say, preferred to extensible? I'm just going to leave it as preferred.
Leave it as preferred? I would hope.
Yeah. I was just thinking
only
that before the yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking that before the meeting what it was. So yeah, that's preferred.
Cool.
Yep, sounds good. All right. Any other questions on what we have seen and heard right now?
Can I ask one?
Sure, Michael, go ahead.
Would we want to change the URL on that to make it a bit more obvious what it is, or are we happy with it being some number, a value set with a number like that?
You are
I
right. That's
thought.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
sorry,
happy
you go,
with that
Daniel.
because that doesn't tell me what that is.
I think there might be one. I've just come to this screen because it was the easiest one to demonstrate.
yeah. There is a. Actually, it's a good question.
Where did that number come from?
That's the ID within SNOMED for that for the underlying reference set.
Okay, thank you.
And there's been a move, and this is, I guess, a frustration I've got with just generally how the NCTS publishes with it produces these ones with the number as an explicit value set for the reference sets, but then there've been these other ones that are named URI, which
Yes, that's intentional, absolutely intentional, and the thing that we actually want to bind to.
the named one.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think it's probably the artifact of us having all these explicit ones on the NCTS as well, which expand to exactly the same, but I think they're more artifact of how the NCTS works rather than them being useful to anyone.
So we want
But,
the
yeah.
intentional, the
Human friendly.
non-numbered one should be the URL. Is there one in existence? And if not, we would need to do an action before we could bind in base.
Look.
Can you search to see if there is a manifestation set that we can point to? Because the other is a ref set, but not a value set. I know it's got a value set expression, but then it's not what we direct bind to.
No, there is.
Is it? Oh, hang on. What was that? Clinical manifestation?
Yeah, that's the one that I've got up here.
Oh,
that's
right.
the,
Okay. So that they would require actions to publish the clinical manifestation or whatever it's called, clinical manifestation value set for us to bind to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm wondering whether also now, like looking at this, because just the thing that I find frustrating is having multiple ref sets to do the same thing, whether or not, I suppose it's already done, the naming convention for these on NCTS, like currently they're all like this pattern, reference set, ID.
They do different things to the value set we're talking about. I mean, well, I mean, that's a...
So these are generated, so we've got an explicit value set, not the implicit one.
Yeah.
I guess you could say we want a value set whose content is the reference set. So we define a value set, and the membership of the value set is the content of the reference set.
Yeah, it'd have the same definition that we've got here.
All right, so do we want an action item to be logged? So therefore, Matt can go away with the action required?
I mean, I'd like to motion that we consider this as a motion, and there would need to be steps done in order to actually include it in AU base R6. But I think the proposed change is clear enough that we could actually decide on whether we want it now or not.
And that will be fine. So we can decide, so we can sort of have a motion with a condition attached to it, that the condition being that informative URL being created, of which, as Richard said, the member is the reference set.
Sounds good.
Matt, are you happy to make the motion?
Yeah, so I'm motioning that, so I guess that the binding is updated to refer to a new value set, clinical manifestation, and then as an action from that, we'll take on the task of creating that value set that's defined as members of the reference set.
Sounds good to me. Lucy, have we captured the detail
Yes.
of the motion?
Yes.
All right, good. So we have Matt making the motion, and the motion is clearly captured. Anyone who would like to second the motion?
I'd like to ask a question about the definition of manifestation. Should I do that now or later?
Can we have a motion seconder first, and then we can open up for further questions and discussions, Richard? All right, I'm calling for a seconder.
Sure, Dave McKillop.
Okay, David, thank you. All right, now, Richard, it's your time.
Okay.
Questions,
Yeah.
discussions?
My question about manifestation is manifestation in a clinical sense just a manifestation of some sort of allergy or disruption, or is a manifestation a much wider thing? So I presume it's the much wider thing, and so that this value set would be expected to have things like, I don't know, the manifestation of influenza, or a manifestation of acute of having your bowel in knots, and so that the manifestation value set that we're talking about is going to have this very wide set. Is that right?
So, Richard, let me sort of rephrase what you're asking. Are you asking whether this value set is a general manifestation value set, or is it an adverse reaction specific value set? Is that what the question is?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, all right. Matt?
Yeah, the current ref set is specific to adverse reactions, so it's all designed, like, was based around the original adverse reaction DCMs.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
If it's limited to adverse reaction type manifestations, then I think its name should reflect that.
Yeah, I was thinking that as you said that, just to
Yes.
clarify that.
So there's a friendly amendment in that case coming from Richard that the value set name should reflect the precise scope and purpose of the value set. Is that right, Richard?
Yep. Yes.
So Matt, do you accept the friendly amendment?
Yeah, accept that.
All right, David?
Yes, Stephen. Yep. I
Okay,
accept that.
cool. So we have friendly amendment. We have acceptance of the friendly amendment. Lucy, you capture that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Any other questions or further discussions? Okay, hearing none. Danielle, please launch the vote.
Okay, that should now be up for people.
Yep.
All right, everybody who can has voted. I will end that poll.
Yep.
Share the results. There are 5 affirmative, 0 negative, 2 abstain.
Yep, and motion carried. Thank you. All right. All right, instead of me sharing the screen and then flip it over to Danielle, I would say that action number 7 is Danielle on the JIRA ticket 50996. So Danielle, if you want to share the screen, please go ahead.
Alrighty, let me just go back to the agenda. And it'll be this one, which is pretty similar to the last one, actually. Out of a recent review on AU CDI, as part of preparing, all the specs for ballot, considering base and patient summary and so forth, one of the things that we were undertaking is reviewing against the terminology called out in AU CDI. And I think it identified an oversight. So the majority of NCTS clinical reference set value sets, like we were just talking about, have already been assessed by the FHIR Work Group. I think mostly when we were originally called the Patient Admin Work Group, for inclusion in AU base. And I think we missed one. And it's this one, it's reason for encounter. And so this would go on Encounter.reasonCode. which we have not localized in Australia, but there is a NCTS published and maintained reason for encounter value set. And that's the one that is actually called out in AU CDI and has been reviewed by the Clinical Design Group as appropriate for use in Australia. So I think we need to consider whether or not this value set, which already has its value set name, is what we should be binding to as the reason for encounter. It's pretty massive. Like it's got 187,742 concepts, which if I go look at AU-based encounter, what we've currently got is the FHIR value set. And that is also equivalently massive. Go to snapshot reason for encounter. Oh, there it is. Reason here. So that's encounter reason code. It's preferred. FHIR does exactly the same thing, but it doesn't incorporate any of the SNOMED CTAU concepts. So it has this huge thing of concepts, which is everything that's clinical finding, procedure, context dependent, and events. And the NCTS one, which has been evaluated, includes our problem diagnosis ref set, the procedure ref set, and also the Australian Emergency Department ref set, which I think is an important inclusion to call out here. So my proposal when I looked at this was we actually should be binding to the Australian defined and maintained set of reference sets for this that is in the reason for encounter value set. I think it's a fairly straightforward question. I'll open that up now. Comments, questions, thoughts?
Anyone who has any comments or any questions that you want to raise?
I'll just have a quick comment. Oh, sorry, Richard. I was going to say, I think it's
Do
mostly
we have
the
any
same.
profiles?
Sorry, Matt first and then Richard.
So I was just going to say, I think that the composition of this one you're proposing is mostly the same. It might have a little bit less, but
yeah,
that might be a good thing.
Richard?
Yeah, it is almost exactly the same, I think. I haven't done a full analysis, but I did go looking for and sample this, and it looked to be, roughly the same, but Australian.
I think it would be just the fringe events and contexts maybe, but they could be included in the emergency one.
Richard?
Do we have any profiles that reference this?
By we, you mean?
Oh, are there any AU-based, AU core profiles that would make use of this, or is this just about
AU-based
making this available?
It's supposed to be for AU-based encounter. This is reason for encounter.
Right, there we go. Thank you. Yes, that's what I was missing.
Proposal is we should be putting this on AU-base's reason for encounter element. That's what the value set is designed for.
Yep. And what's the existing binding strength? Of course, AU base is preferred. Of course, it's preferred. It's AU base. Yeah. Sorry.
Where is it?
Silly question.
No, it is preferred, and I'm not proposing we change that strength. I think we should still keep it preferred, and instead point people to the value set that reflects what the clinical reference sets are. That just is a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I think it should remain preferred. The only other tightening that I can think of is use case specific implementation guides, where they will further subset it or extend it with subsetting, and then they can then declare sort of a tighter binding. I think a preferred binding should be fine. I'm looking at the members of the value set that they've just shown. I think that's quite a reasonable combination, although it is still massive, but at the base level, I think that's reasonable. So anyone who wants to comments or raise questions before we entertain a motion? All right, I haven't heard any or haven't seen any hands up. So Daniel, do you want to make a motion?
Yes, I'll motion that we bind to the reason for encounter value set on AU base encounter reason code.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table. Anyone who would like to second it? Don't be shy.
I'll second it, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. All right, any further discussions or questions?
Friendly amendment, do we need to state the binding strength as preferred?
We could, but without a proposed change to the binding strength, we have no remit to change it. So I didn't think I needed to.
Yeah, I think so too. The original binding strength is preferred unless we change it. I don't think that we need to state it, Michael. Are you okay with that?
I withdraw.
All right, thank you. All right. Any other questions or discussions? All right, hearing none. Danielle, please launch the vote.
Okay, that should be up now.
Yep.
Okay, I'm pretty sure everybody has voted who can. I'll end that. Share the results. It is again a 5 affirmative, 0 negative, 2 abstain.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. So that completes all the agenda items for today. The final agenda item is next meeting planning. We don't have any action. So we do have actions that carry forward for the next meeting.
Could you please share your screen, Stephen?
Okay, let me do that.
And there are agenda items that got pushed to next week due to people at Dev Days who want to present things but couldn't do it today.
Yeah. So that's the final item, which is number 8. Next meeting, this sort of action item, for carry forward for the next meeting. So we have those several items in here that sort of needs to carry forward, except the one that Matt Cordell has, which is not here. Anyway, all right, so those action items needs to carry forward, and then there are a couple of action items arising from the value set. So if we can document that sort of for the next one, that we good. Anything else that I have missed, Danielle and others?
Yes, for next meeting, there's also actually, if you click on the next agenda, because there is one, yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
There is already proposed to be, so I guess we're moving, some of those things. There's the Australian College Fellowship slice, and also considering an AU base encounter, what we do with the associated healthcare service extension / pre-adoption questions. So there's another potential change to AU base encounter proposed for discussion next meeting.
Okay. All right, then.
And Michael has his hand up.
Oh, Michael, sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Michael Wilson.
Yeah, sorry. The e-requesting has a dependency on AU-based coverage. So I was looking for an update on changes that were being looked at for AU-based coverage and trying to get it prioritised on an agenda so that we can get that in for the dependency and e-requesting.
Yeah, is that, I haven't seen some of the emails if you're doing them with Brett. Is that ready to go to the next meeting? Like the proposal and PR and everything? Or sorry, build for you?
I was looking for an update, so it's not with me.
Coverage type, you mean?
Yeah, I think so. So obviously for e-requesting, we're looking to get AU-based coverage. We would like it at AFM1. And I understand, there was some changes discussed.
That's not the hold up.
No, that's right. I know there was changes proposed that would happen before that. So just looking for an update on those.
So that coverage action item, I remember that Michael Osborne did sort of have some presentation and we discussed about that. So you want it to be on the next meeting to give you an update. Michael Wilson, is that correct?
Yeah, if the proposal's ready, Michael, I suppose Michael Osborne might be able to provide an update, but if it's ready, it would be good if that was on the next agenda.
Michael Osborne, are you okay with that?
I was going to propose actually that we put that on the agenda for next meeting. I do have a little bit of pre-work to do on that to get some agreement, but I do have a PR ready to present and a branch for coverage type, code system and value set. So yeah, if you want to put that on the agenda, I can give an
okay.
update
It looks
next
that
meeting.
we can add that to the agenda for the next meeting. So Michael Wilson, you get what you wanted. All good.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. So coming back to today's meeting agenda, the remaining outstanding business is next meeting. So we look at next meetings. Draft agenda will add a few items to that. The next one is in 2 weeks' time, which is June the 18th. Are we good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that we need to talk about?
I have a question. I noticed that there's now 4 agency people in this meeting. How many people, what are the rules around
9 people
not
voted. Preponderance of influence is a majority, so you're good. You're fine.
right? Thank you. Thank you. So okay. I wondered what the rule was. Thank you.
All right. So that's good. If nothing else, I think we can give you all 20 minutes back for your day.
Thanks, Stephen.
All right.
Thanks,
thank you.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks everybody for coming to the call. I'll stop this the recording.